If you walk through parts of New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Toronto, or London, you will meet people earning good salaries who are still financially tense. Good job, respectable income, constant pressure. Then you will meet someone else, maybe a nurse in Dallas, a technician in Calgary, a project coordinator in Manchester, who earns less, but sleeps better at night. Not because they are lucky, because they crossed a quiet financial threshold that changes how decisions get made. It is not $100,000. It is not $1 million. For many working adults, the first real turning point happens around $20,000 in accessible savings. Not invested retirement funds. Not home equity. Cash and equivalents they can actually use. This is where behavior changes first, and wealth begins to follow later. And if you misunderstand what changes at that level, you can work harder, earn more, and still stay financially fragile for decades. In this video, I'm going to walk you through what actually changes at that 20,000 threshold, psychologically, mathematically, and strategically, why most people waste the advantage when they reach it, and how to use it as a launch platform instead of a reset button. Stay with me, because once you see this pattern, you will recognize it everywhere, from San Francisco tech workers to London consultants to Toronto small business owners. Let's start with pressure. Financial pressure is not only emotional, it is cognitive. When your savings are low, your brain shifts operating mode. It moves from strategy mode to protection mode. Protection mode is narrow. It prioritizes certainty. It discounts the future. It overweights immediate safety. This is not weakness. It is wiring. If one unexpected bill in a city like Boston or Vancouver can destabilize your month, then your decisions will logically favor guaranteed outcomes over better long-term outcomes. Fast money over better money. Immediate relief over future leverage. Short contracts over long advantages. You stop asking, what builds the next decade? You start asking, what fixes this week? That shift from future building to present fixing is one of the biggest hidden wealth blockers. And it happens quietly. Now imagine two people, one in Seattle, one in London, same skill level, same intelligence, similar income. One has almost no reserves. One has a solid savings buffer. A new opportunity appears, maybe a role at a smaller but faster-growing firm, maybe a chance to retrain into a higher-paying specialty, maybe a chance to join a startup team. The first person asks, how fast does this pay? The second asks, how good is this path? Same opportunity, different question, different future. Savings change the questions you are able to ask. Better questions create better trajectories. That is the first hidden effect of crossing a real savings threshold. Decision quality improves. Not because you became smarter, because you became less cornered. Now let's talk about something almost nobody explains clearly. Compounding is always working. But in the early stage, it is emotionally invisible. If you invest a small amount and it grows, the math is real, but the feeling is weak. Weak feedback does not reinforce discipline. Humans repeat behaviors that feel rewarded, not just behaviors that are correct. That is why the early saving and investing phase feels slow and discouraging whether you live in New York, Birmingham, or Toronto. Progress exists, but it does not feel meaningful yet. Once capital crosses a visible scale, returns become noticeable within normal human perception. Not dramatic, but noticeable. Noticeable progress changes behavior. It reinforces discipline. Discipline increases consistency. Consistency activates compounding fully. Many well-known long-term investors, including people like Warren Buffett, have explained that the first chunk of capital is the hardest to build. Not because it is complex, because it is slow. Slow progress tests identity. Fast progress rewards identity. Most people quit in the slow phase. Builders survive it. Now let's introduce another concept that matters more than most strategies. Runway. Runway is how long you can function without new income before your lifestyle is threatened. Most households, whether in Miami, Chicago, London, or Vancouver, have very short runway. A few weeks, maybe a month. Short runway forces rushed acceptance. You accept the first offer, the first rate, the first terms. Selectivity disappears. But selectivity is where long-term advantage comes from. When runway expands, selectivity appears. You can compare offers, negotiate pay, reject bad contracts, wait for better alignment. The ability to say no is financially powerful. A weak salary base compounds slowly. A strong salary base compounds for years. A rushed decision echoes. A selective decision multiplies. For many working professionals, real runway first appears somewhere around that same savings threshold we are discussing. Not comfort. Runway. Those are different. Comfort is emotional. Runway is structural. Structure changes outcomes even when emotions fluctuate. Now here is the danger point. Right after someone reaches their first serious savings milestone, they often feel permission to celebrate by upgrading their lifestyle. New car, bigger apartment, higher fixed costs. It feels earned. But this is where many people accidentally reset their advantage. They treat the base like a trophy instead of a tool. That 20,000 is not a finish line. It is structural steel. If you remove the steel to celebrate, the building weakens. If you build on the steel, the building rises. Savings milestones should increase structure, not consumption. Next, we're going to go deeper into opportunity mechanics, how buffer turns ideas into executable moves, and why this is where wealth acceleration actually begins. Opportunity rarely announces itself loudly. It usually appears quietly. A conversation after work in Chicago, a side project offer in Austin, a discounted buy-in shared by a colleague in London, a small partnership idea in Toronto, a role opening inside a growing firm in New York. Most people see these moments. Very few can act on them, not because they lack intelligence, because they lack execution capacity. Execution capacity is not knowledge. It is margin. Before a real savings buffer exists, most opportunities are rejected instantly with one sentence. I can't afford the risk. After a buffer exists, the sentence changes. Let me evaluate this. Evaluation is the doorway to asymmetric upside. You do not build wealth from constant small wins alone. You build wealth from a long series of disciplined behaviors, plus a small number of asymmetric opportunities taken at the right time. But asymmetric opportunities always include uncertainty. Uncertainty requires survivable downside. Survivable downside requires reserves. This is why the 20,000 threshold matters more than it looks on paper. It unlocks participation, not luxury. Participation. Now let's talk about option value. Option value is the value of being able to act when conditions are favorable. Cash has option value. Liquidity has option value. Low fixed expenses have option value. Flexible time has option value. Imagine two professionals, one in San Francisco, one in Vancouver. Both see a chance to join a smaller company that is growing fast. The compensation is lower at first, but the upside is meaningful. The first professional has no savings. They cannot tolerate income fluctuation. They decline. The second has reserves. They can tolerate variability. They accept. 5 years later, their income paths may look completely different. Not because one predicted better, because one could participate. Preparation beats prediction. Savings are preparation. You see this pattern repeatedly in business history across the United States and the United Kingdom. People who could afford to take a temporary step sideways often moved forward much faster later. Now let's introduce a principle I call selective aggression. Financial success is not about being aggressive all the time. It is about being aggressive at the right time. Selective aggression means acting decisively when odds are favorable and staying patient when they are not. Most people reverse this pattern. They become aggressive when excited and cautious when opportunity is real but uncomfortable. Market headlines are hot, they rush in. Markets are fearful, they freeze. Selective aggression requires calm evaluation. Calm evaluation requires margin. Margin reduces emotional noise. Less noise improves probability judgment. Better probability judgment improves expected value. Expected value, not certainty, is what builds wealth over time. This is true whether someone is investing through platforms in New York, London, or Toronto. Now let's move into income structure. Not all income grows the same way. Some income is linear. More hours equals slightly more pay. Some income is elastic. More skill equals much more pay. More systems equals much more output. More reach equals much more revenue. In cities like Seattle, Boston, and San Jose, you see this clearly in technical and specialized roles where skill leverage multiplies earnings faster than time alone. But moving from linear income to elastic income often requires transition. Training time, learning time, portfolio time. sometimes temporarily lower earnings. Without buffer, people cannot afford that transition. With buffer, they can. That difference compounds for decades. Now consider skill compounding. Skills compound just like capital. Communication skill, analytical thinking, negotiation ability, technical specialization, system design, distribution and marketing ability. Well-known investors and business leaders in the U.S., people like Warren Buffett, are often described as stock pickers, but if you study them closely, you see stacked skills. Reading speed, pattern recognition, emotional control, capital allocation discipline, decision patience. Stacked skills create nonlinear advantage. But skill building is an investment. Investments cost before they pay. Savings makes skill investment affordable. Affordable skill investment produces long-term income acceleration. Now we need to talk about the most common post-milestone mistakes, the behaviors that quietly destroy early progress in places from Los Angeles to London. The first is lifestyle locking. Lifestyle locking happens when income rises a little and fixed expenses rise immediately. Higher rent, longer car loans, more subscriptions, permanent monthly commitments. Flexibility disappears. Margin shrinks. Stress returns, just at a higher spending level. Financial strength comes from keeping fixed costs low relative to income and reserves. Flexibility is an asset. Rigidity is a liability. The second mistake is concentration excitement. Someone experiences early success in one asset, one company stock, one crypto, one private deal, and overallocates. Confidence rises faster than risk control. Diversification falls. Fragility rises. Diversification is not pessimism. It is survival design. You cannot compound what gets wiped out. The third mistake is performance chasing. Buying what recently went up, selling what recently went down. This behavior appears everywhere, from Wall Street to the London markets to Canadian exchanges. Recent winners feel safe, but safety based on recent performance is often illusion. Performance chasing is emotional timing. Emotional timing usually buys late and sells early. Structure beats excitement. Now let's talk about patience, real patience, not passive waiting. Active restraint. Patience is disciplined non-action when action is tempting but unnecessary. Most financial damage does not come from too little action. It comes from unnecessary action. Overtrading, overswitching, overreacting, over-upgrading. Patience filters noise. Noise filtering improves timing. Timing improves outcome distribution. Outcome distribution matters more than average return because a few large outcomes often dominate lifetime results. Next, we're going to go deeper into time horizon expansion, how savings change your relationship with time itself, and why that shift quietly separates long-term builders from permanent strugglers. Time feels different when you have margin. Before a real savings buffer exists, time feels tight. Bills are close. Deadlines are close. Decisions feel urgent. Urgency compresses thinking. Compressed thinking reduces option quality. You choose what is available, not what is optimal. This pattern shows up everywhere, from freelancers in Los Angeles to contractors in London to small business owners in Toronto. Short runway forces short thinking. But once reserves exist, time pressure eases. Not disappears. Eases. And that changes decision behavior. People talk about thinking long-term, like it is a personality trait. It is not. It is a financial position. Long-term thinking is affordable only when short-term survival is protected. When survival is protected, future value gains weight. Delayed reward becomes acceptable. Skill investment becomes rational. Strategic patience becomes possible. This is where time horizon expands. Time horizon is one of the strongest hidden drivers of wealth behavior. Short time horizon optimizes certainty. Long time horizon optimizes expected value. Certainty protects survival. Expected value builds wealth. But expected value includes variance. Variance feels intolerable without buffer. Variance feels manageable with buffer. That difference determines participation. Participation determines compounding. Now let's talk about strategic waiting. Waiting is often misunderstood as weakness. In financial decision-making, waiting is often strength. Waiting prevents overpaying, prevents chasing hype, prevents emotional entries, prevents rushed commitments. But waiting only works if you can afford to wait. Affordability comes from reserves. Reserves buy patience. Patience improves timing. Timing improves long-term return. This is visible in property markets in cities like New York, Austin, and London, where buyers with reserves get better terms simply because they are not rushed. The least rushed buyer often wins the best deal. Now let's introduce sequence risk. Sequence risk means the order of returns matters. Two people can earn the same average return and still end with very different outcomes depending on timing. Early large losses hurt more than later large losses because early capital is smaller. If someone is forced to sell during a downturn to cover expenses, the long-term damage multiplies. Buffer reduces forced selling. Reduced forced selling reduces sequence damage. Reduced sequence damage protects compounding. This is why stability reserves are not lazy money. They are shock absorbers. Shock absorbers do not make the vehicle faster. They keep it on the road. Now let's move to decision batching. Most people make money decisions continuously under emotional noise. Builders batch decisions. They review monthly, rebalance quarterly, adjust annually. Batching reduces emotional reaction. Reduced reaction improves rationality. Rationality improves allocation. Allocation improves outcomes. Constant monitoring creates emotional trading. Structured review creates disciplined adjustment. You see this difference clearly between reactive traders and long-term allocators across major financial centers like New York and London. Now let's talk about information diet. What you consume financially shapes how you behave financially. Too much news creates urgency and fear. Too many alerts create overreaction. Too little knowledge creates avoidable mistakes. Balanced input creates calibrated action. Reduce noise sources. Increase structural knowledge. Study frameworks, not headlines. Learn base rates, not predictions. Base rates describe what usually happens over long periods. Broad markets trend upward over long time frames. Costs compound if ignored. Savings rate strongly predicts long-term outcomes. Diversification reduces permanent loss risk. Base rate thinking protects you from story-driven mistakes. Stories are emotional. Base rates are statistical. Now let's examine burn rate. Burn rate is how fast money leaves your life. Lower burn rate extends runway. Extended runway increases options. More options create asymmetry. Controlling burn rate is often more powerful than improving investment return in early stages. Because when capital is small, contribution size matters more than return percentage. A worker in Dallas with a controlled burn rate can outbuild a higher earner in San Francisco with uncontrolled spending. Income matters, but burn discipline multiplies income power. Now let's talk about automation. Automation is behavioral protection. Automatic transfers to savings. Automatic investing. Automatic reserve funding. Automatic bill payment. Automation reduces decision load. Decision load drains discipline energy. Discipline energy is limited. Systems must carry behavior when motivation drops. Long wealth journeys are not powered by motivation. They are powered by systems. Automation keeps progress moving during low-energy seasons. Now let's discuss identity anchoring. Behavior lasts longer when tied to identity instead of goals. Goals end. Identity persists. I want to save is weak. I am a disciplined builder is strong. I want to invest is weaker than. I am a long-term investor. Savings milestones provide proof. Proof stabilizes identity. Stable identity stabilizes behavior. Stable behavior stabilizes compounding. Now consider comparison traps. Comparison destroys satisfaction and distorts risk. Someone richer in Manhattan. Someone flashier in London. Someone louder online. Comparison shifts focus from trajectory to status. Status thinking increases risk for appearance. Trajectory thinking increases discipline for outcome. Slope matters more than position. Direction matters more than display. Builders measure progress against their past, not someone else's highlight reel. Next, we move into capital role separation and allocation structure. How to assign jobs to your money so behavior stays stable and growth becomes predictable. Once your savings reach a meaningful level, money must be given roles. Without role assignment, all money feels the same. And when all money feels the same, people make emotional decisions with it. Role clarity reduces emotional error. Emotional error destroys compounding. There are 3 practical roles. Your money should hold. Stability money, operating money, growth money. Stability money exists to prevent collapse. It covers emergencies, income gaps, unexpected repairs, health costs, forced transitions. It is not designed to earn the highest return. It is designed to prevent forced bad timing. That alone makes it extremely valuable. Operating money exists for flow, monthly expenses, near-term obligations, planned purchases. It must stay liquid and predictable. Growth money exists to compound. It is invested, diversified, long-term focused. Most early financial mistakes, whether in New York, Houston, London, or Toronto, come from mixing these roles. When stability money is invested aggressively, people panic during downturns and sell at the worst time. When growth money is kept overly safe, people stagnate and fall behind inflation. When operating money is treated like growth money, bills create forced liquidation. Role confusion creates stress. Role clarity creates calm. Calm improves decisions. Better decisions improve outcomes. Now let's talk about liquidity, not just as finance, but as psychology. Liquid money feels different from locked money. If all your wealth is locked in retirement accounts, property, or long-term vehicles, your stress response stays higher. When part of your capital is accessible, flexibility increases. Flexibility changes negotiation posture. Negotiation posture changes outcomes. The person who can walk away has leverage. Savings create walkaway power. Walkaway power improves results in salary negotiations in places like Boston and Chicago. It improves contract terms in London consulting. It improves partnership terms in Toronto small businesses. Negotiation is not just persuasion. Negotiation is optionality. Savings create optionality. Optionality creates leverage. Leverage improves expected value without increasing effort. Now let's examine allocation behavior. Allocation matters more than prediction. Where money is directed matters more than guessing which asset will win next. Disciplined allocation beats clever selection. Simple allocation rules work. Regular investing. Broad diversification. Low fees. Periodic rebalancing. Complex strategies often fail in execution. Simple strategies survive in execution. Execution quality matters more than strategy novelty. Now let's talk about rebalancing. Rebalancing means returning your portfolio to target weights after markets move. It sounds minor. It is powerful because it forces disciplined behavior. You trim what grew faster. You add to what fell behind. You buy relative weakness. You sell relative strength. Without prediction, without emotion. This is structured contrarian behavior. Structured contrarian behavior improves long-term return patterns. But rebalancing is emotionally uncomfortable without buffer. Because buying underperforming assets feels wrong when reserves are low. Buffer supports discipline. Discipline supports rebalancing. Rebalancing supports compounding. Now consider fee gravity. Fees are negative compounding. Small percentages over long time create large drag. This is true across investment platforms in the US, UK, and Canada. Low-cost structures increase net return. Net return is what compounds. Gross return is marketing. Net return is reality. Savings buffer gives you time to choose good structures carefully instead of rushing into expensive ones. Now let's talk about contribution escalation. As income rises, savings rate should rise. Otherwise, lifestyle absorbs every gain. A raise should not only upgrade spending, it should upgrade investing. Automatic escalation works best. Income rises. Savings percentage rises. Automation removes self-negotiation. Now let's discuss behavioral accounting. Behavioral accounting means labeling money by role. Reserve money, investment money, operating money. Mental labels reduce misuse. Misuse creates instability. Instability breaks compounding. Clear labeling protects structure. Now let's talk about common post-threshold errors again, but deeper. The first is milestone reset behavior. Someone in Atlanta or London works hard, saves seriously, reaches a visible number, then partially wipes it out to celebrate progress. Upgrade spending, symbolic purchases, status signaling. Progress becomes circular. Build, spend, reset. Builders stack progress. They do not reset progress. The second error is complexity addiction. More tools, more indicators, more strategies, more trades. Complexity feels sophisticated, but complexity increases error rate. Simple disciplined systems outperform complex emotional systems. The third error is social mirroring, copying the lifestyle and investment behavior of peers without matching their structure. Peers may have different income stability, different family support, different debt, different risk tolerance. Mirroring without structure creates fragility. Now let's talk about recovery speed. Financial shocks happen everywhere. Job loss in Seattle. Medical costs in Toronto. Market drops in New York. Business slowdowns in London. The difference between resilient and fragile households is not shock frequency. It is recovery speed. Savings increase recovery speed. Fast recovery preserves compounding timelines. Slow recovery breaks compounding timelines. Compounding is time-sensitive. Interruptions are expensive. Next, we're going to connect decision architecture, risk control, and asymmetric positioning into one operating system you can actually follow long-term. Now let's build the decision system that sits on top of your savings. Because savings alone do not create wealth. Savings plus decision architecture does. Decision architecture means you decide how decisions will be made before the moment of pressure arrives. Most people decide inside emotion. Builders decide inside structure. Structure reduces regret. Regret causes reversal. Reversal breaks compounding. So structure quietly protects growth. Start with decision rules. Rules remove hesitation and reduce impulse. For example, no investing in something you cannot explain simply. No major purchase without a waiting period. No increase in fixed expenses without an increase in savings rate. No concentration beyond a set percentage. These rules work whether you live in New York, Denver, London, or Toronto. Rules turn chaos into process. Process beats emotion over long timelines. Now let's talk about pre-commitment. Pre-commitment means locking behavior in advance. Automatic transfers into savings. Automatic investing every month. Automatic escalation when income rises. Pre-commitment protects you from your future moods. Because your future moods are unpredictable. Systems are predictable. Predictable systems outperform emotional reactions. Now consider regret minimization. Most people optimize for immediate gain. Experienced builders optimize to reduce long-term regret. They ask a different question. Which choice will I regret less in 10 years? That question changes behavior. Short-term pleasure loses weight. Long-term structure gains weight. You see this thinking pattern in many respected US and UK long-term business leaders. Decisions are judged by durability, not excitement. Regret minimization supports patience. Patience supports compounding. Now let's introduce base rate thinking. Base rates are historical probabilities, not headlines, not stories, not predictions. Base rates show what usually happens over time. Broad equity markets grow over long horizons. High fees reduce investor returns. Savings rate strongly predicts outcomes. Diversification reduces permanent loss risk. Using base rates reduces narrative traps. Narratives are persuasive. Statistics are protective. People in major financial centers like New York and London who rely only on narratives often trade more and earn less than those who rely on base rates and discipline. Now let's talk about scenario planning. Scenario planning means asking in advance. What if income drops? What if expenses spike? What if markets fall? What if a big opportunity appears? You define responses before events happen. Predefined responses reduce panic. Reduced panic improves decisions. Improved decisions protect compounding. Savings make scenario plans executable, not theoretical. Without buffer, plans are wishes. With buffer, plans are usable. Now let's introduce error budgeting. Error budgeting means expecting mistakes and limiting their damage. No single investment should be large enough to destroy you. No single decision should be irreversible. No single bet should define your future. Errors are tuition, if contained. Errors are disasters, if concentrated. Containment is a design choice. Now let's talk about feedback loops. Feedback is information about results. Without feedback, behavior drifts. With feedback, behavior adjusts. Track net worth trend. Track savings rate. Track reserve months. Track contribution consistency. Review decisions, not just outcomes. Feedback improves judgment. Better judgment improves allocation. Allocation improves wealth trajectory. Now consider time diversification. Time diversification means spreading entry across time instead of trying to be perfect on timing. Regular investing across months and years reduces timing risk. Timing risk is entry error. Entry error shrinks when exposure is spread. Consistency beats precision in compounding systems. This applies whether someone invests from Chicago, London, or Vancouver. Now let's discuss attention control. Attention is financial power. What you watch shapes what you do. Constant market watching increases overreaction. Periodic structured review increases discipline. Limit noise exposure. Increase knowledge exposure. Study principles more than price moves. Attention discipline improves decision quality. Decision quality improves results. Now let's talk about commitment devices. Commitment devices make reversal harder. Separate savings accounts. Withdrawal friction. Accountability partners. Public contribution goals. Default investment plans. These reduce backsliding. Reduced backsliding protects compounding windows. Now we connect this to probability stacking. Probability stacking means combining many small advantages. High savings rate, low fees, diversification, automation, skill growth, burn rate control, tax awareness. No single edge is dramatic. Stacked edges are decisive. Quiet edges compound loudly over time. Now we move toward integration, pulling behavior, time, structure, allocation, and identity into one practical long-term operating model tied back to the 20,000 threshold. We are going to close the loop and turn this into a repeatable system. Most people spend their entire financial life chasing bigger numbers, without realizing the first number that actually changes their trajectory is not big at all. It is quiet. It is unimpressive on social media. It will not impress people in Manhattan, Los Angeles, or London dinner conversations. But it changes behavior. And behavior is what changes outcomes. That number, for many working adults across the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada, sits around $20,000 in real, usable reserves. Not invested retirement balances. Not property value. Accessible financial buffer. Because at that point, something subtle but powerful happens. You stop negotiating with every bill. You stop fearing every surprise. You stop rushing every decision. Pressure drops just enough for intelligence to operate fully. That is the shift most people never name, but every long-term builder eventually feels. Before buffer, money controls your timing. After buffer, you begin to control your timing. Timing control is leverage. Leverage changes outcomes without changing effort. Think about two people, one living in Chicago, one living in London. Same salary, same profession. One has no reserve. One has real buffer. A bad manager appears. A weak contract appears. A poor deal appears. The first person must tolerate it. The second person can decline it. Over 10 years, that difference compounds more than most investment returns. Freedom to refuse is a financial asset. Savings by refusal power. Refusal power protects trajectory. Now connect this back to everything we built. Savings created margin. Margin created calmer decisions. Calmer decisions improved allocation. Allocation improved compounding. Compounding improved momentum. Momentum reinforced identity. Identity stabilized behavior. Behavior built wealth. Not luck. Not genius. Behavior, protected by structure. You have also seen the traps. Milestone spending. Lifestyle locking. Performance chasing. Complexity addiction. Social mirroring. These reset progress quietly in cities from San Francisco to Toronto to London every single day. People earn more, but stay fragile because structure never forms. Structure, not income, is the divider. Income can rise and disappear. Structure persists. Now here is the part most people underestimate. Wealth building is not dramatic. It is procedural. It looks boring from the outside. Automatic transfers. Regular investing. Periodic rebalancing. Skill improvement. Burn rate control. Filter decisions. Protect reserves. Repeat. If you study disciplined long-term builders, whether respected investors in the US, disciplined business owners in the UK, or steady portfolio builders in Canada, you see the same pattern. Not excitement. Repetition. Not prediction. Positioning. Not speed. Consistency. The early phase feels slow. That is normal. Slow is not failure. Slow is foundation. The reason the early slope looks flat is because behavior is forming. Once behavior locks, acceleration follows, but only for those who protect the base. So here is the operating rule set you can carry forward. Build the reserve first. Protect it like infrastructure. Separate money by role. Automate contributions. Increase savings rate when income rises. Keep fixed costs controlled. Invest simply and broadly. Rebalance on schedule. Reduce fees and leakage. Upgrade skills continuously. Say no more often than yes. Act aggressively only when odds are favorable. Measure trajectory, not status. Think in decades, not months. If you do this, the 20,000 threshold is not your victory. It is your ignition point. From there, compounding stops being theoretical and starts being visible. Decision quality stops being pressured and starts being selective. Money stops being chaotic and starts being structured. And structure, over time, becomes independence. Not flashy independence. Not loud independence. Quiet independence. The kind where a surprise expense is data, not disaster. A market drop is volatility, not panic. An opportunity is evaluated, not feared. That is when everything changes. Not when the number looks big. When the structure becomes strong. Build the structure. Protect the base. Let time work. And keep moving. With a long-term perspective.